Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Wednesday afternoon here on the Horn. On the show today, we'll talk some more NCAA football. The transfer portal is open and people are jumping in at record numbers. Everyone's trying to get in, but some people starting to find landing places as well. Coaches moving around. And the coaching carousel is starting. Now, we're getting most of the head coaches are filled, but some of the times you're hiring a head coach from somewhere to fill somewhere else, so that keeps it moving. And we got some offensive coordinators from the Big 12 also moving around. We'll talk some Heisman odds as we get closer to the ceremony on Saturday. Coach of the Year, as well, is a big discussion happening right now. Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day. The NBA in-season tournament continued last night, and all three Texas NBA teams are playing tonight. NCAA basketball, Texas plays a big game against former coach Shaka Smart and the Marquette. We'll see how that goes, and we'll talk some NFL. And, of course, your text messages here on the Sports Complex. 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776 is the text line. We know we still have some people who may be using the old number. It's no longer active. We no longer see those. So 512-447-3776 is the text line number. Keep texting in there. We're going to get to all your texts. We try and get to everyone. We don't necessarily always succeed in it, but we try to get to every single text. We appreciate you guys for bringing it so much in these last few weeks. Let's talk. By the way, I'm Patrick Davis. With me across the lane, across the desk is my man Jacob Standard, talking some sports with us. How you doing today, Jacob?
I'm doing good. I took down a Chick-fil-A sandwich about an hour ago before we started, so we'll see how I'm doing in an hour or two. But right now, I still got a bunch of energy. But that has been known to put me to sleep.
I know that my man Rob Babers does not understand. I'm not a Chick-fil-A guy.
What?
I'm not. I had like a couple of them when I was a kid and never thought they were anything that special. And then there's lines, and I know they say it goes fast, but I don't do lines.
It does go fast. It goes really fast.
I know, but I don't do lines.
This one right
and
over here.
I also am one of those people that I get it to detriment, but I don't like popular things. If something's really popular, then I think it can't be that good. Nothing that popular is that good. They're always just kind of it's too niche and too. I need some more niche for me. That's too generic appeal. I don't need that.
What about football?
It's not popular. What I've heard is from people have told me the NFL is not as popular now. People are upset about it, and then college football. What I've heard from Florida State fans is that it doesn't even exist anymore. This is why the ratings are so low, is because of decision. That's what they keep telling me. And let me start off the show by annoying Florida State fans once again. Again, I feel bad that it had to happen. We'll remind you that your conference is the one who voted. Your conference, the Big Ten and the ACC, voted against expansion. The reason we don't have 12 teams and you would have been in the playoff this year is your own conference. The Big 12 and the SEC voted to expand. They wanted to expand the playoffs. All the smaller conferences wanted to expand the playoffs because that gave them a much better shot to get in. And you should. But that being said, can we stop the Trevor Lawrence got hurt. Does that mean they're not going to get in? And Joe Burrow got hurt. Does that mean they're not going to get in? No, because they don't have a 14 playoff.
Right.
If they did, it would mean they would get in because they play more games than you play, and they would lose some more because there's more parity in the NFL. The worst NFL team is still usually a better team than, they're better than Florida. Florida State is better than Florida by more than the worst and the best NFL team.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's college football. You can have a really, really bad team. The worst team in the NFL still has a certain amount of salary cap. They still have a certain amount of everything. They're still NFL players.
Also, there's no decision process that goes into the NFL
It's
playoffs.
just record. It's a different, but there's more teams.
Right.
That's why they changed it to 12 teams, was because they said, you know what? It is wrong for this to happen, and this is a thing that could happen. And the ACC, and the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 all said, no, that's stupid. Just put us in. Forget the Big 12 and SEC. We're the coolest ones. We'll always get in. And then you didn't get in because you did. But that analogy that you keep doing is an invalid analogy. And I know not everybody on the text line is doing it. I know. But I keep hearing it. I heard it on Rich Eisen before the show today.
It's frustrating.
And it's frustrating every time because it's just it's not a real – you can get mad that there's plenty of things to be mad about and plenty of things that you can say, this is – I think it's wrong that you did that. That's not one of them.
Yeah.
That's just a flawed argument.
Not to mention your friends, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, they're both in. So are they your friends still?
Yeah.
ACC?
No, and then there is a worry that there is those, the ACC is extra worried too because Washington will be in the Big Ten next year and Texas will be in the SEC. So as of this year, there's 4 conferences in the Final Four.
Right.
As of next year, there's 2 conferences in the Final Four. They're worried a little bit about the power conferences that the ACC and the Big 12 may start getting left out of more and more things going forward. But you have the 12-team playoff now.
But also,
so everybody's going to get in now.
Not only that, these super conferences that are forming, the SEC and
they'll eat themselves.
They'll eat themselves. They'll cannibalize themselves.
Yeah, but they're still going to get,
they'll get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But they're going to cannibalize themselves before the playoffs get there.
Yeah. So I just that was we heard it and I was talking about it. It's just one of the most annoying arguments that I keep hearing is, well, would that mean they're out? You're like, no. It does, because they still got to play the games. But if Trevor Lawrence doesn't come back, now the reports are that he's feeling better pretty much immediately, that it wasn't even a high ankle sprain, that there's talks that he could even play this weekend.
Oh, my goodness. I couldn't imagine after seeing that hit he took.
And so he's saying that it wasn't even that bad of a sprain, is all the reports we're hearing now, that he has not been ruled out for Sunday yet. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
So that's big because the AFC South, they have a 1-game lead on the Texans and a 1-game lead on the Colts. We do know that Tank Dell is out for the season for the Texans. That is a big blow, as he is. They were saying in the votes, he was a top 10 vote getter for wide receivers.
Oh, okay.
And 4th in the AFC. So that's a big, that's someone who is.
I can see that
doing really well. So that's a big blow for the Texans. However, definitely something to look forward to of that race in the AFC South, where it was not predicted to be a great race this season, especially when Anthony Richardson went down, Gardner Minshew doing what he does in Indianapolis. All right, let's talk some transfer portal. There's not a ton more to report in the transfer portal. There's been a couple more names who have jumped into the transfer portal, but for the most part, there's another Texas player. Do you have the Texas player's name, Jacob?
It is Sawyer Gorham Welch, interior offensive lineman.
He's there. He is a graduate transfer with 2 years left. He will finish out the season with the Longhorns. However, he is going to move on. I could believe this is more of an academic thing.
Yeah, he's looking past the league.
I can imagine that this is what it is. Maybe he wants more playing time and he knows he's not going to get it there, but I assume if I had to assume, I would assume this is an academic thing, that he realizes he has 2 more years to get a scholarship and get a graduate's degree and help himself. And maybe he'll play some more or whatever it is. But that's what we get out of Texas news. A&M has more and more people jumping into the portal right now. They are not feeling good about their news. We are seeing this. I think there is something in the portal right now we're seeing too with NIL.
Okay.
Where we saw the guys who are ready to move on, right? And like the Dylan Gabriel who said, Jeff Levy's gone. I'm okay. I'm going to go to my next place. Or, even McCord or whatever, McCord in Ohio State, I think he was, his decision was made already. He was going. I think there's enough guys, and we're seeing this in A&M a little bit, of guys who were told they may get some NIL and maybe did not get the full thing, or they're seeing if they can up the number in the NIL. And they're renegotiating right now to see, well, I'm going in the portal unless you want me to stay. Can you make me want to stay? And not a football reason, but a monetary reason. And I'm not saying that Texas doesn't have players that are better than this. There are Texas players who I'm sure have done this. So it's not fully it's not casting aspersions on any of these players, but I know this is something that we're going to see some more of these players that are looking in the NIL in the next few days as they are talking to, businesses. All right, well, I'm looking at going into the portal. Can you make it worth my while to stay? Or are you fine? And I'll go try and find the money elsewhere.
What's your best offer? Yeah. I mean, it's simple as that. What's your best offer for some of these guys, especially these early portal entries? It's pretty clear to see on some of that.
But yeah, Texas is going to be looking for a lot of positions in the portal. There's a lot of guys in there, so we'll see what Texas, if we start to get a little bit further into the transfer portal, and as Sark can evaluate some of these players, he's still going through everything and trying to recruit and trying to get players that, they're probably going to try and go after some cornerbacks. And I believe another safety went in for Texas as well. Another safety went in for Texas. And so the safety room, you're going to have to replenish through the portal.
BJ Allen Jr.
Yeah. So you're going to have to replenish that safety room. And through the portal and through recruiting. You're gonna have to help that DB room. You're losing Jahdae Barron, who's your best guy right now, and you're losing Ryan Watts. So you're gonna have to keep that secondary is gonna need a lot of help. Wide receivers, they're probably gonna try and bring in some more experience. As we know that Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell and probably JT Sanders are all gone after this year, which will lead you to believe that, Jonte Cook can step in, but none of these guys have massive playing time.
Right.
So if you can go get another receiver or two, you may go out and look for that. You're looking for offensive linemen always. You're looking for defensive linemen, losing Sweat and probably Murphy and possibly Collins. You may want to go ahead and go and get some of those as well. So a lot of positions that Texas is going to be looking at in the transfer portal. And you may even try and bring in another quarterback if Malik Murphy does leave.
Just to have three.
If you don't have a recruit, you may go get a senior or somebody who doesn't mind, being the backup, who wants to compete, but someone you can trust in to come in. You may do that too. Who knows? Who knows what they're actually going to go for in the portal? But we can assume wide receiver. We can assume a lot in the secondary. And then we can also assume that they're going to try and get some wide receivers in there just to try and do that. And I think good teams are constantly adding those because you want that competition in those rooms.
I would also say defensive linemen. I would think.
Yeah, defensive linemen for sure. For sure, you've lost some of those guys. There is a couple at A&M who left that were top guys that you may go after as well. All right. And if we look at some coaches that were moving around, not a ton of news. Houston has hired their guy from Tulane, Willie Fritz. USC, the defensive coordinator that PK was mentioned as. PK was mentioned in those talks that they may try and go after him at USC. They have hired D'Anton Lynn, who is from UCLA. So that is PK is no longer in those talks for USC. Penn State has hired Kansas offensive coordinator, and K-State's offensive coordinator is headed over to Texas A&M, which is going to be I think we know that offense, so it's another game where you can say, okay, we kind of know what they're going to be doing offensively.
I don't think so. I think it's more of a sign that they are changing their offensive philosophy over there completely.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. K-State. We've played K-State. That's what I meant. So we know the offensive coordinator there. Jeff Choate, the linebackers coach for Texas, is going to be heading to Nevada as a head coach, but the report is he will be staying with the team throughout the playoffs to stay with Texas and get through this season before he goes and takes over full-time at Nevada. And another coaching notice, Jake Spavital. Jake Spavital, former Texas State head coach, is headed over to Baylor to be the new offensive coordinator in that Dave Aranda run team, where Dave Aranda is going to be trying to do more of the defensive side and kind of give up a little bit of the head coaching, just where he was trying to do too much, I think, and he realized that they need to make a change. He's going to bring in Jake Spavital, who has head coaching experience, to kind of help out and manage the offense a little bit more. Let Aranda handle the defense because I guess they're saying that it may be too much. So now you have two head coaches and the one final say is Aranda still.
Right. You got somebody you don't have to manage as much. It's like the opposite of the Cowboys situation where it's like they should have had DQ managing Mike, which I think they still are, just not in title.
Yeah. DQ, by the way, we'll get into that. But yeah, he was doing the press conference today.
Ooh.
He was doing the press conference. And I see he's always funny to see a coach with the backwards hat roll. It's just always funny.
Did he chest bump like somebody up there on stage too?
We also get to the report that the finalists for the Coach of the Year came out today. The Eddie Robinson Award.
Yes.
And Steve Sarkisian is on that list, which is something that you really want to see. It's funny because I don't believe Mike Gundy's on the list.
He is not.
So do you have the full list in front of you?
I do.
I put up. Give me the list of all of the names.
They've got David Braun from Northwestern, Jamie Chadwell, Liberty, Kalen DeBoer, Washington, Elijah Drinkwitz, Missouri, Jed Fish, Arizona, Rhett Lashley, SMU, Chuck Martin, Miami, Ohio, Mike Norvell, Florida State, Barry Odom, UNLV, Nick Saban, Alabama, Steve Sarkisian, Texas, and John Summerall, Troy. Yeah,
it is a good list of coaches. There's a little part of me that wants Kalen DeBoer to win.
I think they're going to give it to Mike Norvell just to try and.
They may, and they may. I mean, I think that's a good choice. But no, but that's not smoother. But I think you can say, look, you went 13-0. That's a really good record, especially when you lost your starting quarterback.
You're right. That might be more of a spit in the face than it is smoothing over.
I wouldn't necessarily also want to give him a live mic right now. Just be like, oh, this is not going to go well.
Why do you think he's a little unstable right now?
I think he might still be a little mad.
A little bit.
I wonder how much money it cost him.
Ooh.
You know it cost him money.
Whatever that performance booster
The
was.
performance booster, you know it cost him that. So
Ooh.
he's not a fan of that. But Kalen DeBoer from Washington is also on this list. And I think it'd be fun to give it to him just so Sark and the team can get him mad that he has lost out in 2 awards. He has lost to 2 guys that they have to go play and have that little added emphasis of who's the real best coach for Texas. It worked in the Big 12 championship game.
If it means they're going to beat them by 50, then I'm good with it.
Then give it to him. But good to see that Sark is in that Coach of the Year. And something that I want to talk a little bit about is one of the reasons why I think Sark is on this list and why he can get in, because we know that his play calling at points has not been great. We know that he's shown his weaknesses at points, even this season. He's gotten better at a lot of things. You want to see him continue to grow. But I think Sark has continued to grow as a coach.
Big time.
Is this and it's a thing where in previous coaches at Texas, you didn't necessarily see the trajectory and what was happening now. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I have some friends that were Tom Herman people, and they really liked him. And I like Tom Herman as a person. He was always very nice to me. Every time I worked with him, he was very nice to me. So I have no problem with him. But I did see problems in there, and there was things that when Sark came in that you noticed the change in it. And, I was somebody that with Tom Herman, when he was here, culture was kind of much more overblown in my brain.
Okay.
Because the Tom Herman culture wasn't so much a culture. It was more of an attitude. And I know we're getting to semantics on this, but it was much more of an attitude of, we're going to be the toughest team, and but it wasn't necessarily walking the walk. It was much more talking the talk. And so you would go into everything and you'd walk with your chest out, but when you went to game day, you weren't necessarily the toughest. It was like, headbutting guys with helmets on. Does that make you the toughest guy?
Not really. No.
You're just doing something stupid. And so that was kind of the attitude more with that. We had Charlie Strong. Charlie Strong went in there, wanted to be a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really being a disciplinarian. He was more in the world of disciplinarianism. Hey, man, don't get caught. Hey, guys, you know what? We need to stop getting caught doing bad things.
What a fantastic leader.
But that's what, if you go into a group of kids, because that's how, as kids, when we grow up, if your parents say you got to be home by midnight, you're going to find every which way to sneak back out of the house after midnight. It doesn't mean in your head, I think midnight's right.
Yeah.
Because they didn't tell you need to be home at midnight because this, that, and the other. These are the reasons why I'm worried about you being out afterwards, and I'm worried about your safety, and we need to make sure you're okay, and this is why we're doing it. They said, curfew is midnight. You got to be home at midnight.
Challenge accepted.
And you said, cool, I'll come home, you see me, and I'm climbing out the window, and I'm going back out.
I'm going to make that leap off the first story.
I'm going to push my car down the road so you can't hear it start. Look, we all know this. I'm sure some of you were good kids, but the rest of us know this.
No, I know exactly what neutral is for on my car.
So we know that that's what it is. When you come into a program and you're telling all these people, and I know I've talked to people that were part of the program when Mac Brown took over.
Okay.
And I know those people when Mac Brown came in, he was trying to clean up and they hated it because they were like, we ran 6th Street, man. We ran 6th Street. And then he came in and was like, guess what? You're not going to 6th Street anymore.
Yeah, no, now we run the football field.
And he shut him down, and it worked for a little bit. And then the Texas Boosters came to Mac Brown and said, well, you cleaned up the program, now we want to win. And Mac said, okay, we're letting him go back to 6th Street. Because he knew you can't have both things. You can't have, I'm going to be the tough guy and the disciplinarian, and I'm going to bring this culture that we're family. Because they're kind of two different things.
Yeah.
So he cleaned up the program, and then he brought in the culture. And I think when we see with Tom Herman, there was a great attitude. He was a good coach who could win games, but he couldn't evolve. He couldn't evolve his coaching to the next step and win the big games and get his players to play at a higher level. The player development didn't get better and better because players weren't taking it upon themselves, and the accountability wasn't there. You had great leaders, but if you look at that Tom Herman era, if you take Sam Ehlinger out of it, that becomes a different story to me because Sam Ehlinger was a great leader on this team.
Yeah, Tom Herman wouldn't even acknowledge that the kicker had a name.
And that's Urban Meyer stuff.
Yeah.
Because he came from Urban Meyer, who kicked the kicker when he was in the NFL.
Right.
Because he was told him to move and all that other stuff. And it's just a different attitude, and that's not the culture that you're trying to build, because the culture is built, and this is a team that the first thing everybody says is, those are my brothers, and I'll do anything for them. And when it's your family, you don't want to let them down. And when you're teaching them the reason why you do these things, and you're teaching them about being accountable for your family, for your brothers, it brings on a different sense that it makes you want to work out in that weight room more. Not for you, because for me, I don't care. I'll weigh 500 pounds. I'll go eat 3 dinners.
But I don't want to let him down.
But I don't want to let everybody else down.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one who can't go on a walk with a friend because I'm too fat to do it. So I'm going to try and exercise a little bit more. So that's my accountability for other people. And that's one example. But in reality, when you're talking about it for these teams, you're going to work out longer in the gyms. You're going to take those drills a little bit more seriously if you're doing it for somebody else. Because for yourself, you can only push yourself to pain. But we've seen what people will do for family members and go back into burning buildings and things like that. That's what you have to train them. And you can't do the old school way. The old school way was a military way, which was, I'm going to beat your own identity out of you. Yeah. I'm going to take all of your personal identity out of you, and we're going to make you men that when I say jump, you say how high. That's that. Sark doesn't have that. Sark will tell you why he'd like you to jump. He'd tell you about, hey, if you can get over this, that would be great. And if you get a little bit higher, man, look what we could achieve.
He'll explain to you the benefits.
And he can do all that. And you want to do it because you don't want to let him down. And then the best part is Sark goes, hey, man, we need to jump over there. And then your teammates are the one that goes, yeah, we can do this. We'll find the way. We'll do this. And the leadership on the field. And to get a Quinn Ewers that really came in and, could have an attitude right now because he wasn't doing as well as he thought. And could have, after the first year, had a lot of issues by not being the guy that he wanted to be. He could have had all that, and he didn't. He didn't. He came out and worked on himself and worked on being a better person for everybody else around him, for his girlfriend, for his family, for the team, for Sark. He worked on being better, and part of that meant that he is now able to handle things mentally at a different level. Those are the things that he's imparting on this team, and that's why we've seen the growth in Texas, is because you have to do it. Sark said when he was being interviewed in the college football playoff that he talked to Pete Carroll when he took the Texas job. And Pete Carroll told him, if you want to do things the way they've always done things, you can do it and it'll be a lot easier, but you look like you're probably going to get the same results they got before. If you want to do things your way and you know it's right, it's going to be a lot harder, but the results are going to be much better. And that's what Sark did. He did it the hard way. He walked in those press conferences going 5-7 and shook everybody's hand and ate humble pie a lot and didn't be too defensive at a lot of those meetings where he could have been much worse. And I know there's coach speak, and I know there's points where he was defensive and those points, but he took a lot of shots on the chin. I was there at those press conferences. And I saw him trying to walk in and smile. And I saw him try and be a polite guy to people and try and make a joke and try and lighten up the room when everybody's wondering, man, did we make a bad hire?
Yeah.
And then in year 2 to come back and still preach Big 12 championship game when we didn't think it was a possibility, and then get close enough that it was a possibility and it slips away. To go into a bowl game and not have the best plan, but have the team that was there at least fight in it. And then we watch through this year where this team plays at a much higher level, and you see what Sark has been able to do to invent a culture, and it's something that Texas not had in a while. And it's different than Mack Brown's culture because it's a different era. Because Mack Brown could still do a lot of things. There wasn't NIL. There wasn't really a transfer portal when Mack was here. So he could kind of build things up. And yes, Mack Brown was still the guy who, all rumors are he promised Chris Sims that he was going to play, and that's why Chris Sims played. That's what all the rumors are. How much that's true and how much it's not, who knows? Chris Sims knows, Mack Brown knows.
Right.
Those two know. And I'll give all hats off to Mack Brown that he's never talked about it because he doesn't want to. He's not going to say anything.
What about Chris?
Chris could talk about it, but it's not going to make him look any better.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I would. And maybe there wasn't. Maybe he just said this is the right thing to do, and I think that that's a possibility too. But we know Mack Brown made some bad, or some tough decisions, and it just got later on in the career. And I think Mack Brown had a great career, but he wasn't still as hungry as he needed to be. And so it was time to move on. And there was a point after 2009 and that injury when he lost that national championship that they fought back in. They had a shot with Garrett Gilbert who wasn't playing great. And you had all that, and you still had a shot in that game. That's when Texas started to fall off. It took a long time to get back where they're at, but I give Sark a ton of credit for building the culture here now where this team is not having a bunch of people jump in the transfer portal immediately.
Right.
And not even guys so far that he's really recruited heavily and have been playing and been the guys that are a big piece of it. He hasn't had that.
Yeah, no, I think you absolutely have to give Sark credit for it, and it's never been more evident than like you were talking about when he was taking his lumps on the chin. That Oklahoma State game last year,
Yeah,
when everybody was screaming bench Quinn, and he knew he had bigger picture,
Bigger picture.
bigger picture.
and he knew, and so I my hat's off to him, and whether he wins or not, he has definitely changed a lot of opinions in Texas, in Austin, for fans of Texas. That I mean, my phone, I got multiple texts. Let's just say that of people that are now going, okay, I see it, and I see what you were talking about, because I've been telling them for the last year and a half ago, there's something different about this guy. Like, you need to give him a chance, because I'm seeing what he's doing. And what I can tell you, the biggest thing is, I said on these airwaves 3-4 years ago, culture is one of the most overused word in sports. And it's still overused. I'm still not completely away from that. It's still an overused phrase. But I understand it way better because I've seen it firsthand with this program versus the programs before, and the difference that it makes. So I will give props to Sark for what he's done. Now that rant's over.
Yep.
Let's get to Patrick's Big Fat Poll today.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
All right. Here's one for you on the text line, 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776. Which non-senior, so we're going to take out the people that have to leave, the people that we know are leaving because they're going to the draft, or the eligibility's out. We're taking those out. Which non-senior are you most worried about losing? Whether it's a transfer portal or going pro, which non-senior is the player that you think for Texas are you the most worried of, like, man, that's going to be a really hard person to replace? So we're taking out Tavondre Sweat, Jalen Ford, and those guys that eligibility's up. And are you worried about someone who's not necessarily on that, who hasn't transferred or hasn't said they're going pro yet, but you're worried about them? And it could be Xavier Worthy, who we all assume is going pro. I believe one of his family members said they was, and then he told everybody else, that's not me. I have not made my decision yet.
Yeah, everybody calm down.
So is it Xavier Worthy? Is it Quinn Ewers? Is it, we know Nate doesn't think it's Alfred Collins, but if it's somebody on the defensive end that you're worried about, is it a transfer you're worried about? We know the reports are now Arch Manning staying. They're finally reporting the other way that we've been reporting. Everybody's reporting in Texas for the past 3 months. But who is it? Let us know. Is it Malik Murphy? Are you worried that you really are a Malik Murphy guy and you want him to play well, and you're worried that he's going to leave? Who is it? Tell us on the text line, 512-447-3776. I love it, too, if you tell us why. We always love to read your tweets. We're going to get to those, or your texts, sorry. We'll get to those. We're also going to talk some NBA when we come back here on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the sports complex here on the Horn on a Wednesday afternoon, playing songs with time in them. You know, since we moved to a new time slot, 4 to 6 p.m. here on the Horn. So we're playing songs with time all week long. Jacob, do you know this song?
Yes, feels like the first time.
Oh, my God. It's not at all.
No.
It's not at all. It's not even close to that.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
What is it?
It's called Long Time. It's by Boston.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. I didn't play. This song goes with another song. They're on the same track.
Yeah.
A song called Foreplay, which is just an instrumental
What's that
intro.
one about?
It's just it's an instrumental.
Oh, okay.
It's just foreplay for the song, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know everyone on our text line knew that song.
I was so confident in that. It's for those of you who obviously don't get to see us during the breaks, as soon as he queued up that song, I pointed at Patrick.
And he was like, I
I
got
was
it.
like, I know this one.
I
I know
got
this
it.
one. Set me up.
And if you don't know, Jacob has a pop culture void of knowledge for anything before 5 minutes ago.
Never short of confidence, though.
Never short of confidence. Every time. It's hilarious to me that I make any reference I make around Jacob, he will immediately just give you a blank stare and go, yeah. And
I'll
I go,
pretend to know it.
And then I'll go,
Yeah.
do you know what that is? And he goes, no.
Not at all.
Never heard of that thing? Text line's open 512-447-3776. Texter Patrick, thoughts on Texas +8 tonight? I like it. We're going to get way more into Texas versus Marquette in the 6 o'clock hour. We will break you down Texas Marquette as well as we can early in the season against these two teams. But I will tell you, since you asked nicely, I like Texas +8.
Ooh.
I like it. I think it's going to be a close game.
I'm good with that.
Another texter, I don't get Chick-fil-A either. Most overrated chain in America. Round of applause for you.
Grow up.
Yeah. Round
Grow
of applause.
up.
Round of applause.
What's your beef with Chick-fil-A?
Unless they want to sponsor me, in which case, yum yum chicken. I don't
If we have to slap.
Also, for the record, I hate their commercials.
Why?
Let me throw in, I hate those commercials about the fake small town people with the most random,
How dare you?
where it's like, well, our whole town flooded and, we lost everything, but they got a boat and brought us a Chick-fil-A sandwich. You're like, really?
How
That's
dare
what you
you.
were worried about?
Yes, that's how important Chick-fil-A sandwiches are.
And then they're like, I talk to my person at Chick-fil-A every day, and I'm like, that is insane. You shouldn't talk to people ever. Like, that's a crazy. In my head, I try and get through most daily interactions with people I don't know as quickly as I can. And not you listeners, I know you guys.
Oh yeah, you don't
guys
even
are-
talk to the hairstylist.
No, I don't talk to anybody.
But you're going to be in that chair for like 10 minutes. You're not going to talk to him at all?
No, if I could not talk to I look, I talk for a living. I talk for money. So when I'm spending money, no. I'm losing on both ends of that.
Oh man.
Don't want to talk to anybody. I don't like small talk is the thing. I don't like small talk at all. I just can't. I despise it. It's fake. I don't like being a fake person.
I'm not a big fan of it either, but I can't help it. When I'm going to be sitting in their chair for 10 minutes, I'll sit there and talk to the hairstylist. I'll find out their name, their husband's name, their wife's name, their kids.
No. Let me just sit there and pretend life doesn't exist for a couple minutes. And then I'll be a new hair and I'll be like, oh, it's relaxing. I meditate.
Boo.
Nate says, that was an astute statement about why the transfer portal offensive line guy. I figure you should get a degree from UT, but as for a scholarship to get that degree, you got to take it and go. And also tell you this, you can get it. He's got a degree. He's a graduate transfer, so he has a degree from Texas.
Right.
He can now transfer to somewhere else and get another degree.
Specialize.
So he can get a specialized. If there's a program that some other school offers a really good master's in or graduate degree in, he can get that. But he's already got a degree from Texas, so he's got that. And why not get 2 more years of education? While you're living for free on their dime.
Yeah, good for him.
And he's made a few bucks because he was an offensive lineman, scholarship offensive lineman for Texas. We know he's made $50,000 the last couple of years from the Pancake Factory,
Factory.
So we know he's got a little bit of scratch, so he can, live nicely enough wherever he goes. And we don't know. We'll see where he ends up too. If he ends up at a higher level school of like a Rice and I don't mean, look, Texas is the highest level school, guys. That's a crazy statement I just made. But
Yeah.
we'll see where he ends up if he goes somewhere that has a program or something that he really likes. But yeah, he's already got the degree from Texas. So when I have 2, I mean, I personally would just have 20 degrees from Texas. But that's only because that's the only format I have on my printer when I'm printing out fake degrees.
Well, I did that plan as well. That was my plan, was just keep working on new degrees so I don't have to pay my student loans.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just keep delaying that 6-month window.
And Patrick hates the Cowboys. What a bum. Don't go to Whataburger either. It's popular. Look, I do go to Whataburger. I do go to Whataburger. It does not have the lines that I go into because I use the app, and then I just go to the curbside, pull right in the curbside. They bring my food out to me.
How many curbside slots do they have?
5, and they're never full.
Well, you're still in line.
I'm not in line.
There's never anybody else parked there.
There's no one in front of me.
But you're
That's
in
not a
line.
line.
That is a line. It's
No,
just
I'm
facing another direction.
I'm waiting. I'm not in a line.
What?
Yeah,
So
come on.
you're in a queue instead of a line?
Yeah, a digital queue. I'm in a digital queue. Yeah, come on. Try and win this argument with me.
Unreasonable. Unreasonable.
I look. I had the sandwiches. It's also like I will also put this in that I'm also at 39 years old. I don't need to find anything else I like that's bad for me.
Oh, that's a good point.
I'm already overweight. I don't need to add on. So when people are like, you should try pie again because I don't like pie. And they're like, you should try pie. I'm like, no, I shouldn't. You know what I don't need? Turning 40. I don't need to be 40 years old and find out I love pie.
Yeah.
That seems like a bad trend because you know what I can do? Go to the store and buy them. I don't have a wife. I can do whatever I want. And that is a problem.
Not looking to pick up new vices right now.
Yeah. I don't need to. I already got a food's a vice for me. I don't need to add on to it. Well, do you just like sugar out of the bag in your mouth? Yeah, sure. Why not? Don't need to add that. The NBA in-season tournament continued. We're going to get back to your text, 512-447-3776, asking which non-senior are you most worried about losing this season for Texas? Send that in and anything else you want to talk about. You guys drive the show. We just try to keep it on the rails, which we don't sometimes. But the NBA season tournament continued last night. The Knicks lose to the Bucks 146-122.
Oh, yeah.
146. The Knicks team is the third best defensive team in the league, but not last night. Julius Randle had a really good game for the Knicks, 41 points, 14 of 19 shooting. He was shooting historically bad numbers to start the season, is turning it around and playing really well as of late. So I think Tibbs has got him playing where he needs to be. Jalen Brunson, though, not as good. Went 0 for 5 from 3, 10 for 22 on the game. Thought he might have a better game in there. Did not get it going. Giannis, though. 35 points for him and leads the scoring for the Bucks. And what really went crazy, the three-point shooting for the Bucks, they shot 60.5% from 3 in that game.
Whew.
You cannot play that bad a perimeter defense. You know, they can go inside, outside, and Giannis is a guy who pulls in defenders. He was finding guys. Dame goes 5 for 7 from 3. We talked about how Brunson was shooting a better three-point percentage. Not in that game. And Michael Beasley, 6 for 10 Beasley goes in that game. 6 for 10 from 3 for Beasley. So the Bucks move on in theirs, and now we get the Suns and Lakers game. There was a little controversy.
There was.
At the end of the Suns and Lakers game, Lakers up 2 with about 7 seconds to go, and Austin Reeves gets the ball, does the fall forward trying to get a foul call.
Yeah.
Which is you can't do when you're
he
when
gave
you're
him
young.
A bump right as he got it too. You saw that
He gave him a
leans
bump,
into
but
him.
he gave him the I get it. I played 2.
Yeah.
You get bumped, and it's a foul every other minute of the game.
Right.
The last 2 minutes of the game, it may not be a foul, so you can't do that. You got to be strong in it. He just makes a sophomore move, and he's not a rookie anymore. So sophomore move, and then loses the ball. Then the ball's flying all over the court, goes over to a Suns player, but they've awarded a timeout to LeBron James and the Lakers.
Right.
The Lakers get the ball back. Frank Vogel and the Suns are irate, but they end up winning the game by 3. Austin Reeves also hits a big 3 down the stretch. So he comes out of this squeaky clean for someone who could have been the villain at the end of that. Kevin Durant has another big game, 31 points, 12 for 17, 4 from 7 from the three-point land. He's playing really good basketball. LeBron James, 31 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, and 5 steals. That dude wants to win the in-season championship really, really bad, doesn't he?
That's great for the NBA. That is fantastic.
He just wants to add that, and then he's going to go, guess what I got that Michael Jordan doesn't have? A thing that didn't exist when he was here.
There you go. Can I add one more thing to that discussion?
Yeah.
I'm going to make an addition to my list of in-season tournament courts that need to go away forever.
Okay.
And it's the Lakers. That yellow on the out of bounds was really tough.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not good. So we now have our matchups coming up. Those next games will be coming up on Thursday, I believe. Thursday or Friday? Thursday? Tomorrow, right?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
So tomorrow night we will get more in-season matchups. So we'll talk more about the next matchups tomorrow. All 3 NBA teams in Texas are playing tonight because none of them are in the tournament. So they get the off-day games. The Spurs are playing the Timberwolves. It is the first versus the last in the Western Conference. playing tonight. Timberwolves are 12.5-point favorites. We'll see Wemby versus Gobert some. We're going to see the Frenchman battle.
We've seen it before, though, right?
We have, but
Yeah.
we'll see it again. And this is, I'm curious. I'm curious if Pop is going to start trying to make some adjustments. I was reading a stat about the two-man stats with Wembanyama, basically what the plus minus is with Wembanyama of one guy on the court, or with Wembanyama when he's on the court and this other guy is. What are those stats? There's one player with a positive stat right now.
Who's that?
Trey Jones,
Oh.
who is not in the starting lineup because they're running that big starting lineup. I think we're getting to the point that Trey Jones may have to go back into the starting lineup. I get you didn't do that, but Trey Jones and Wemby play really well together.
Right.
I don't trust Jeremy Sohan to run an offense. I think Devin Vassell, if he's healthy, it helps a little bit more. But this offense is too much, and especially when Wemby's out, there's too much of whoever has the ball is taking the shot, and they need to move the ball around a little bit more. They're 3-18. They got to change something at some point. I don't know if it's going to be now or it'll be a little bit later in the month, but you figure at some point they may abandon the experiment.
Yeah, because at some point this is going to get out of hand. It's going to get away from you.
Yeah, and you just don't want to have the losing culture because
Right.
losing breeds losing.
Yes.
And so you kind of want to move away from it at a certain point. But I think it is. Pop said he was going to try and give it time to kind of see who's playing well with him. If we see through the first month and a half of the season, it's Trey Jones. He's playing really well with him. And maybe if he's on the court, maybe some of those other numbers will pick up for Keldon and Sohan and Vassell as well, and you can kind of pick up that lineup. I get you want to have Zach Collins on the court, but Zach Collins is getting beat around in the post as well by bigger guys that are going and scoring on him anyway. So I may just try and put in a Keldon Johnson and have him bump more, and they can shoot over the top of him. But Zach Collins is also getting bit on defense a lot and missing a lot of threes. I think he could be good energy off the bench.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure he needs to be in that starting lineup right now.
You'd rather have someone who can bruise a little bit better.
Yeah, and I put
Yeah.
Sohan down there. If I want to get somebody, put those guys, Keldon and Sohan, and have them bump a little bit more, whereas Zach Collins is kind of going straight up 7 foot tall and just getting bumped back. But guys like Şengün for Houston was just going over the top of him all game long, just bumps him down to right next to the basket. And you've seen that kind of throughout the season with different guys. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up if they change tonight or if it goes. I've not heard they're changing anything yet, but it could be at a point. Thunder are 2.5-point favorites at the Rockets. This is what's interesting.
Okay.
The Rockets are first in perimeter three-point defense. The problem is they're not very good at defending around the rim. They get in a lot of foul trouble around the rim.
Really?
Şengün doesn't have a lot of good lateral quickness. So as much as he can block shots and whatever else, if you can get him and run to the basket, if he doesn't get there in time, they're picking up a lot of fouls. So this team with an SGA and a Chet, I think they're going to drive the basket a lot more in this game. I do have the Thunder winning it just because I like that team a lot. I like the Thunder a lot. So I have them winning. But the Rockets are going to put up a fight. They've been playing really good defense at home, not great on the road. We'll see if they'll be able to cut down the fouls against the Thunder.
I'll take the Thunder by 50.
And
Dylan
then
Brooks, the scum of the earth.
none of us like Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
And the Jazz are playing the Mavericks. Mavericks are 11.5-point favorites. The Mavs have lost 3 out of the last 5. Last 2 at home, they've also lost. They're a better team at home. They're putting up about 120 a game at home. The Jazz are not a great team this year. So I think the Mavs can come through and win this game. They've also missed some because Luka Doncic missed a game. That's usually going to be a loss
That's
for
gonna
you.
hurt. Yeah.
But they're playing pretty well. Derek Lively plays well. That team plays pretty well. And if Grant Williams hits his threes, which he's shooting really well at home, that adds a huge piece. Because if you put a defender that can actually shoot threes and be a real 3-and-D guy and be an elite 3-and-D guy, that really helps your team out, and that's what helps out this Mavericks team. All right. We need to take a break. We're going to come back and start with your text. 512-447-3776. Which non-senior are you most worried about losing for Texas? And anything else you guys want to talk about on the text side. 512-447-3776 here on The Horn. 1019 AM 1260, The Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn. Playing time songs because of our new time slot. And Jacob, do you know this song?
Yes. This
Okay.
is Time of the Season.
Bye.
Time of the Season. I have no idea who
It
is
is the Zombies. The Zombies.
That was my second guess.
That was your
wasn't the
second
first
guess.
one.
Was
Yeah.
not the first one.
First one was gonna be Johnny Cash, and then
Sounds just like Johnny Cash. Back on the text line, 512-447-3776. My confidence level, that was yesterday. All right. If we get Kobe Black, I'm feeling awfully good about Muhammad Black and Williams as the foundation to that secondary. That's a straight up Legion of Boom. I do like that. There'll be a lot of young guys. You'd like to bring in a couple more experienced guys as well, just to help keep it going, because that is a lot of young guys. Derek Williams, of course, freshman this year. Manny Muhammad's a freshman this year. If you get Kobe Black, he'll be a freshman next year. So it's a lot of underclassmen. You'd like to bring in a little bit more
well, it's
help.
like you said, you want that communicator back there. Someone
Yeah,
who speaks.
and you're going to need some
Yeah.
safeties too, because those are a lot of on-ball defenders as well. So you'd like to
Right.
get some safeties too that compete. But I like that, Scarlett. I think they're going the right direction. And another thing I'll give Sark credit for is he's kept his coaches, and so there is some stability in recruiting. That you have a lot of these coaches that he didn't get rid of in 5 and 7, and kept these guys, even though people would just go, oh, so let me scapegoat my DC and scapegoat these guys.
Yep.
He didn't do that. Let's see. Jake will be the interim head coach for Baylor. Is that so? You believe that
Spavital's coming for his job.
that Aranda's going to get fired and Spavital will be there? If the offense plays better than the defense, that's the way. But that offense has to perform for him to be the interim head coach, or they're both going to be out of there.
It's gonna be an interesting experiment. I'm excited
Yeah,
to watch it
I
play
think it's
out.
great. I'm happy for Jake Spavital that he gets to go do that. Chan texting in there. He says, I live in an apartment 10 stories high in Singapore. Ain't no climbing out to sneak out.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one.
That would be a tough one.
But I've done 3 stories.
I've gone out the front door.
you
I've
do-
snuck out the front door.
Not all down in one trip. You have to shimmy down some porches.
No,
And-
I've had doors cracked open at times where you needed to get it, so you did it. Where you've as long as they don't see it, I'm good. The door's already open. I just gotta sneak out. We're good. Sorry if you're listening, parents. And Coach RT as well, right? Yeah, thoughts on doing this team and not oneself. I think RT is a great guy. I think there's a difference in basketball and football. That basketball is a lot easier to build that culture a little bit quicker because you're talking about 10 to 15 guys.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier because, you can sit in one room and do it. When you're talking about 70, 80, 90 people that you're trying to lead in position groups and all that, it's so much harder to build that culture in football than it is on these smaller sports.
There's more people in a special teams meeting than there is in a basketball team meeting.
Yeah, and then also when you're saying, well, we need to build culture with the walk-on guys. Well, the walk-on guys want to build the culture. That's what they want to be that. And look, you have a Brock Cunningham who is,
All about the culture.
all about it. So you do have that, and I think RT is a guy who helps build that and builds it for family. They're very big on doing activities outside of the games and outside of that. They were all at the playing game last night because they're up at Marquette. So they went to the playing game in Milwaukee last night.
Oh, really?
Yes, they were there in Milwaukee last night watching the games. You saw it on everybody's
that's cool.
Instagram.
Yeah.
My man Craig Way posted it as well, that they were all at the game there. So look, he's doing that. I agree with you, Chan. He is on that list. It's just different for football, and because in football, it's easy for a head coach to be a culture guy for the 12 star players.
Sure.
For Tom Herman, he was probably a really good culture guy for the 11 starters on offense. That was his purview that he was really on, and some of the stars on defense. But once you go, well, that doesn't mean anything because when they're gone, now you have to rebuild it every single year.
Yeah.
It just becomes harder to do. And don't feel bad, Jacob. I missed that song. Yeah, Chan, don't worry. You know way more than Jacob does about pop culture before the year 2024.
Speak for yourself. I'm batting 1,000 over here.
Batting 1,000 and missing.
Well, I do
That's-
that on purpose. I miss it on purpose.
It's all part of
Yeah,
a bit.
Obviously.
Texter, we're asking about which player are you going to most miss. We got a couple people coming up. AD is one of them. Adonai Mitchell is a junior. He technically could come back. I don't think anybody's really expecting him to, but another one, yeah, he is going to be a miss next season. Riley P says Charles Wright. And Keelan has to be on there. Taft, too. I don't think Taft will be leaving. I think Taft will still be there.
Michael
Oh,
Taft.
sorry. That was from this morning. Sorry.
Oh.
That was from this morning. But Charles Wright is somebody. All right. Charles Wright, I don't know.
It's an interesting one.
But is Charles Wright a senior? He might be a senior. All right, we're going to take a break and look that up. And we got to get some more texts. We got to take a break at the top of the hour here. We'll get into more texts We come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour 2 of the Sports Complex coming at you here on the Horn. We're going to talk some Texas versus Marquette. Shaka Smart looking for some revenge on the team that he mutually parted ways with, guys.
Mutually.
Was not fired. Mutually parted ways with. Texas women also in action today. Tonight we'll get into that. The NFL, we got some talks about that. We'll get into maybe a little Astros news. They did make a signing overnight.
They sure did.
So they brought in somebody else, and it means the end of an era for the Astros in one sense as well, most likely. We get into that and your text messages, 512-447-3776, asking which non-senior are you most worried about losing this offseason. Charles Wright was a sophomore. I don't know why I thought he was a senior. I would have thought he was a junior at least. But Charles Wright, I appreciate that, Riley P. I'm not as worried about Charles Wright. But I think I've heard really good things about him in the practice room and part of the group. So I've always heard his name brought up in a very positive light.
Mm-hmm.
So I will throw in that every time I hear his name mentioned in any of those groups talking about Texas and the people who are around that, his name's always mentioned in a very positive light. WPI Parts Guy says, tune into the show at work now, then 5 o'clock on the drive home. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Savion Red, I think he's got a lot of potential, and I hate to see him go. I agree. I think Savion Red is just tapping into what he can do, and I think we've seen more and more of what he can do in another offseason to kind of build on that and open up his versatility and that Red Cat. I think if he works on building that Red Cat kind of offense up a little bit more, you get more and more use in the red zone and just different kind of things, but building his game up and putting a little bit more muscle on and a little more size coming from wide receiver to in that more running back position, I think will help him out a lot. And Jonte Cook, so much potential. And if the upperclassmen leave, we'd be bare. I don't think Jonte Cook will be leaving.
I haven't heard anything about it, and
I have not. I understand that the question was who would you be more, but I'm not worried about him leaving.
Yeah.
I also believe that there is probably going to be some NIL money loosened up from some other guys, and he may get a boost in it, especially if he's playing a little bit more. But I think he's right now the heir apparent to that Xavier Worthy most targeted guy. That's why he was the only real freshman getting playing time at wide receiver this year.
Right.
So I think that he's the guy that I think there's some other wide receivers a little bit further on there that you could kind of be worried about. But again, we talk about that culture. I'm not fully worried of the freshmen leaving. I think normally those guys, it's, hey, let's take another year and see if it gets better after 2 years, and then you transfer out after that. But who knows? These are all young men who have their own ideas, and so we can't say for sure on any of those.
Can I say X-Man? I want X-Man to come back really bad.
We all want X-Man to come back. I agree with you. I think that would be good. Juan Soto to the Yankees. Hey, I did not see that one.
I didn't see that report either.
I did not see a report. We'll see. 420 coach. I don't know if 420 coach is who I'm going to believe in news.
Where was your source?
Where was your source? But I appreciate you sending that in. If that is true, they have just picked up a big one. I guess the Padres are on, the Padres spending all their money didn't work.
It says they're 56 minutes ago. It says they're finalizing blockbuster trade for Juan Soto, the Yankees.
Wow. Stupid Yankees. Man, I don't get why people like the Yankees more than the Astros. And
I don't get why baseball doesn't have a salary cap.
They do, but it's not a real one. It's silly. It's also because the smaller teams don't want there to be a salary cap, because if they don't have a salary cap, it means there's a luxury tax, which means they have to pay money back to the owners. So the teams that don't spend any money are basically making more and more money. So it makes the league really unfair, but they don't care because they're just in it for the money.
Right.
So it's a dumb thing for fans. It sucks that it's a bad model. But for the owners, they can never get it changed because the owners at the bottom don't want it and the owners at the top don't want it. It's only those people in the middle that are like, well, I don't want to spend, I don't want to triple my money to have to go compete at this level. But it's hilarious when the Yankees don't make the playoffs.
That is one of the best feelings ever.
Yeah. So, new debate. Is it standing in line or online? It's in line. It's in line.
It's definitely in line.
It's in line.
Although Patrick has an argument with his little Whataburger app. Go wait, not in line, but wait online with the other people.
No. You're saying online is in the World Wide Web.
Yes.
No, not. But I'm not online. No, online is. It feels British to me. Feels like an English thing.
You're waiting online?
Yeah, that sounds like bad. Yeah.
Do you have any way to confirm that?
I feel like, am I wrong?
I don't know.
From English, I feel like they say online instead of inline.
Possibly.
Chief Engineer says Chick-fil-A is a ripoff. I refuse to wait in line that long for a chicken sandwich. Popeyes is so much better. Round of applause, Chief Engineer. Good call, Chief Engineer.
Grow up. Grow
Also, commercials are better. Everyone's commercials are better than Chick-fil-A's. They're holier than thou, weird commercials of the cult that they're all in. That, oh, no, what happened is my children all died, and so I was pretty sad. And then Chick-fil-A guy came by and said, hey, I'm up in your shake to a large on me because you look kind of sad. Let's sell some Chick-fil-A during this football game. The ads are just weird to me. They're just weird.
You're in the minority here.
I'm not in the minority.
You are. It's the only fast food place.
I don't believe it.
They don't open themselves on Sundays, and they're not 24 hours, and they've got a line wrapped around the building 24.
They do. I was at the bar the other day, and there's a Chick-fil-A right by it, and there was still a line at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
In the bar. Like, come on, man. You gotta have some respect for yourselves. With
the
Chief
people
Engineer.
in line?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, it makes him stooting buddy heads with the helmet. Dude needs to chill on the testosterone shots. Do not miss Herman. I like Tom Herman, but I'm glad we have Sark now. I'll say that. Anybody on the O-line? The O-line has been awesome this year. Kind of overlooked with all the skill position players killing it this year. It's been proven the best QBs can't do crap if they have no time. Case in point, the Texans, they built their O-line. They got a QB. Didn't want to repeat the David Carr experience. That guy flinching when he woke up every morning from the PTSD of getting sacked so much, and then maybe some CTE, making picks, making comments that Jalen Hurts should be benched. And from what I've heard, that the report that he was actually trying to say that Jalen Hurts should be benched until he's healthy.
You're right.
But it did not sound like he was.
And I'll say this about the offensive line at Texas. I think everybody's pretty comfortable where they're at because of the reputation of a Texas offensive line to NFL scouts. I think Texas has always been known as an offensive line.
But but a guy like Jake Majors is a perfect example of a guy who is a center that's a junior that could stay another year.
Right.
But we don't know if he gets the evaluation, he may go pro. Because I'm not saying they just transfer portal. These are guys that could go pro.
True.
And so Jacob, I'd love to see him come back as well. And that's first two strings of the line. I'm not concerned with someone that's fourth down the depth chart. I agree with that. And Jeez, Jacob, I don't know what he's mad at you about on this.
I think I missed a song or something earlier, but we already told you it's a bit. Yeah, no, I knew the titles to all of these songs.
It's not a bit. He does not know anything pop culture before the year 2025.
Wait until I knock the next one out of the park. All right.
Oh, there's no way you know the next one. I know what's coming up. There's
grab
no way
the most obscure one you can think of.
I've already did.
Okay.
And it's not that obscure. It's just a great song. It's
and
a great song.
Listen up, Texter. We're keeping score.
And he also agrees small talk is overrated. Talking to someone takes energy. I'm a manager and have to be on at work, coaching, interacting with all kinds. Last thing I want to do, my personal time, is pretend to be interested in people I rarely ever see again. I'm with him. I don't like it. I don't like being fake. I don't like any of it. I'm just not a fan of it.
I hear where you're coming from, and maybe one day I'll grow out of it, but I enjoy just communicating with people, having a connection with somebody.
Oh, really enjoying the new show, the new time slot. It's much better. I appreciate that. Possible show name, Patrick and the other guy. We're just a sports complex. We're just the sports complex. We're the sports complex, but I appreciate the other guy.
I do like that.
He is Jacob.
I do enjoy that.
He is Jacob Standard. And we've Chief Engineer, the man, has given him so many nicknames.
He's tried very hard. We landed on one. We haven't used it since, but
and Charles Wright was in the QB room with Brett Stafford. Did not know that one.
Oh, you didn't know?
I didn't know that.
I
didn't know
room with Brett Stafford.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Well, shame on you.
CPAL says word was he was telling players were telling recruits they were telling them not to come because of Herman. I've heard that as well.
If that's true, that's bad.
I've heard that as well, and that's one of the reasons why. But I don't know how true that was or if that was overheard. There was a lot of slander going on about Tom Herman at the end, and some of it was warranted and some of it wasn't, because I was around a lot of that at the end, and how his response wasn't great back. And so, but yeah, the in the eyes of Texas thing had happened then too, and so he had pissed off a bunch of people, including Chris Del Conte, and so the rumors got out, and I don't know how many of them were true and how many there weren't. I just don't know.
Yeah, once it got to the tipping point, it kind of rolled downhill.
Yeah,
it
it built a lot.
Yeah.
And Arch hope not think he will be great. Yeah, I don't think Arch is going to, especially not this year. Maybe next year, who knows? But yeah, and the SEC has been a liability. Washington will be a tough matchup, maybe scary. Hope to scheme, confuse Penix, and rush him. I mean, you'd like to see it too, and get them, not allow them time to throw it downfield. You don't necessarily need to get to him all the time, but do not allow him time to throw downfield,
or at least
to get those plays over the top.
Pocket. Yeah.
And that's the thing. You don't want him to be able to get plays downfield easily.
Right.
So that's something you really want to do. Average Joe says, Patrick, have you all seen the Whataburger in Westlake? That's basically a giant computer vending machine. It's crazy. Jacob was telling me about it in the break. I've not been there. I've seen that it's there. I heard about it. I have not been. He told me about it, that it's like It's at the lockers.
Yeah, so I was just looking for a place to eat, and I saw the Whataburger sign. I got tricked. I drove in there and find out it's a digital kitchen. I had never heard of that before. So there's no drive-through or anything. You go park in a spot, order on the app, and then you go pick your food up in one of the lockers on the front of the building. It's an interesting setup.
It's an interesting setup. All right, let's talk some Texas basketball. We're going to go back to the text line, 512-447-3776. We will get back to it here in just a couple minutes. But I do want to talk some Texas basketball because they are taking on a big matchup against Marquette tonight. Marquette is an 8.5 point favorite in this game. We know that Shaka Smart is coaching. I was a big Shaka Smart fan as well, but I just don't think he really could work what he does at Texas. It just wasn't the place. He needed a little bit smaller school and a different kind of philosophy and just a different attitude of the kids that were there. And it just didn't seem to work at Texas.
You think that's why it worked at Wichita State?
You mean VCU? VCU.
Yeah, VCU.
I did. Yeah, I think that it's once you get to such a big place and a big town and all of that, there was so many distractions. It became harder for him to do what he did, and I don't know if he had full support from everybody as part of it. So I like the guy. I think he did a good job for what he did. He did put Texas in the right place after Rick Barnes, where Rick Barnes had done really good. It could have gone downhill. It did not. He kept him in the conversation a lot. Then we know Chris Beard was able to come in, and there wouldn't be a Moody Center without him. He did a lot of good stuff. He started bringing Texas players back, and that's something that's gotten really big. And, unfortunately what happened, and Rodney Terry's doing a great job now. So it's going well with what's going on. A couple things to note in the game. Marquette is not a great three-point shooting team. They are 31% from the three. Texas shooting 37%, so not much better. But Marquette is a team that is going to try and get inside on you a little bit more and play in the paint. This is where Texas is going to go too. So one of the things Marquette's not great at is they allow 64.6% completion rate near the basket, around the rim, points in the paint. Texas is getting shooting 70% from points in the paint right now too. That's where Texas needs to go. When the three-point shooting is not there, if Max Abmas is not getting there, you need to get downhill, get to the basket, get those fouls, get the buckets near the basket. That's going to be a big part for Texas tonight. Marquette doesn't necessarily have a ton of size. They got some big players, but not a ton. So getting the ball down to Caden Shedrick, this could be a big game for him as well. But you want to start getting the ball in a little bit more. You're going to have to hit some threes to pull them off of you and not double down. But you'd love to see that. And rebounding-wise, again, not a great rebounding team for Marquette. That's not one of his big areas. So you're going to have to be able to get down and rebound the ball really well for Texas. You need a big game out of Caden Shedrick in this game because he could be a big difference. You'd love to have Dylan Dessou there to be able to play. Brock Cunningham's going to be in there to add some toughness when those guys are going to get chippy with Texas. But I think this is a big game, and you want to see IT Horton if he can get his vertical movement up a little bit more and stay in this game, because I think you have a good game shooting the ball against Marquette, but you're just going to have to be able to play defense on the other end and not let them get around you, not get in foul trouble, or else we're going to see a lot more Kendall Weaver get into these games and kind of get just for the defensive part of basketball. Tyrese Hunter also going to need to be good at playing defense, but I think if we look at the other position, Max Abmas is not necessarily a big guy, so guys are shooting over him a lot more, but he has a little bit more speed. But I think IT Horton is going to be one to watch out for in this game if he's able to play defense, or they kind of keeps trying to screen onto him and go at him a little bit more when he gets in the game. We will see. And if Tyrese Hunter, if he can play defense, that'll be big against this Marquette team. Tonight, the game's at 7 on FS1.
Yes, it is. On
Longhorn Network, you can check out Texas versus Long Beach State. We don't have to look up too much about this. This is Texas women's team playing Long Beach State. They've been dominating teams right now. I believe they're going to continue to dominate teams. But go out and support them for Texas playing Long Beach State tonight. And they'll be on Longhorn Network. So shout out to them. A couple more text messages before we take a break, and then we'll try and throw in some NFL and maybe some Astros. And if Jacob has got something good, we'll throw into that too. We let him talk here in the last 3 or 4 minutes.
There you go.
That's why we let him go.
That's all I really need. Trust me.
What do you think the odds are of there being a third-round Alabama versus Texas? What do you mean third-round Alabama?
I guess they're pulling in from last season as well.
Oh, of there being a third-round Alabama versus. Okay, right. I got you. I just couldn't read that right. What do we think the odds are? I mean, for both teams to win, 30% maybe.
I don't even want to put a number on it.
But I'm saying for both of them to win is 25 to 30%, I'd say. I don't think it's a overwhelming foregone conclusion. I think Michigan's a really good football team. I think Washington's a really good football team. It's going to depend more on when we see who's all still playing and all of that. But yeah, I wouldn't give it a high percentage. I know a lot of people really want to see that matchup again. I think we've already beat Alabama once, and I know they want to do a round 3 and everything. I'd be fine playing Michigan too. I'd be fine beating everybody. I'm fine with whatever happens, but I literally want to beat Washington first.
Yeah.
And so I'm not as worried about that game. I know it's a funner matchup, but I think the Washington matchup is going to be one that you don't want to miss. It's going to be a lot of electric pass plays in that game. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
It's definitely one you can't look past. I don't like thinking about what that next matchup might be. We finish this game first. Take care of your business.
Jameson 512. Why did Texas not go against Oklahoma State in the regular season? Because they added the 4 new teams to the Big 12, which meant that you could not play everybody anymore. We did not play West Virginia either in this season for Oler because we played Cincinnati and we played BYU. We played Houston. We played Cincinnati.
We did not.
We played Houston and BYU. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can tell it's hour 2 already.
Right.
My brain is fried already, buddy. But yes, BYU. So that was the reason we didn't play him, but we did play him in the Big 12 championship and had no problem with him there. Coach Ronnie from Rosebud, absolutely hate Chick-fil-A or however it's spelled. Another one. Round of applause. I don't even see any love for Chick-fil-A in here. No one's even giving any love. Just people agreeing with me. Our sports complex listeners, the smartest fans, smartest listeners in the world.
No, I think you're confusing that for the word stubborn. I believe stubborn is the word you're looking for.
Right guy from New Mexico. I'm only asking this because we do not have one here in New Mexico. What is better, Whataburger, In-N-Out? I'm a Whataburger guy personally because from Texas, anyone who's not from Texas will probably tell you In-N-Out because they don't try Whataburger. Whataburger is also not as good as it used to be. I don't want to be the guy who the things used to be better. But yes, when they were corporately bought out, the quality did go down a little bit. It's not too noticeable, but
I don't notice it.
There's times in the customer service not always as good, but at points, but that's kind of everywhere as well right now.
I don't get the craze on In-N-Out either. I've had it. I've
had it twice, I think, and it was just like I'd rather go to one of the other places I know better.
Yeah,
I need nostalgia and warmth in my food. I don't need to eat something
that's
new.
What In-N-Out's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like an old school.
It is, but it's
shack.
not nostalgic for me because I did not have it in my youth.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to gain nostalgia from something that is new to me.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I also heard they have really long lines, so you'd hate it anyway.
Time by Alan Parsons Project, best time song of all time. Look, if I'm listening to Alan Parsons Project, I'm listening to Sirius, and I'm getting way too pumped up for a man who wasn't even a Bulls fan. But it is the Bulls intro music, if you don't know what that song is.
Oh, and okay, I didn't know that.
That's the one Alan Parsons Project song I'm going to be listening to. Chan says, wait, we underperformed as a team under Shaka. How many first round exits then? Also, the coaching adjustments were also missing during the game under Shaka. No, I mean, like, let's put it this way. We could have dropped completely out of any conversation. Shaka wasn't playing great, but neither was Rick Barnes at that point. The program did not suffer, under Shaka. I don't think it excelled the way it was supposed to, but also Rick Barnes was not doing great at the end of his run either. Shaka did not necessarily get the recruits as well as Rick Barnes was doing, which I think was another one of the parts that didn't go over well here in Texas, is they wanted guys who were going to be top 10 picks in the NBA, and they didn't really care about if it fit a system or a culture or whatever else. They just wanted those guys.
Right.
And that didn't fit with what Shaka wanted to do either.
That's also not how you win championships.
I mean, it is somewhat, but you need to build it first. It didn't work out right. I like Shaka as a basketball guy. When I've talked to him about a little bit of basketball and everything, he's always been a good guy. So I won't disparage the good name of Shaka Smart, but I do hope he loses by a lot tonight.
Okay.
We'll say
Fair
that.
enough.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll finish up the text line. We'll talk a little Astros and some NFL, too. We didn't get to NFL in this break, so we'll try and get to it in the next break. Here on the Sports Complex in Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the sports complex here on the Horn. Sorry, I had to let that one play. It's one of the greatest songs of all time.
Okay.
It's an all-time great. Jacob, any guesses?
Party All the Time.
It is called Party All the Time. It is. I'm sure our text line is going to know who this is.
Is it Michael?
It is not Michael.
Okay.
There is a famous musician on this.
Okay.
That produced it and was on it a little bit. But we're playing songs with time in the title because we're moving to our new time slots. And Jacob's unaware of Eddie Murphy's hit song,
Oh my gosh.
Party All the Time, that he did with Rick James.
Oh my gosh.
It is a great song, Party All the Time by Eddie Murphy. If anybody doesn't know this is just go treat yourself. Treat yourself. Get this. Get it, buy it digital. Get a CD, a tape, an 8-track, vinyl. Whatever you need a copy of this. You got to play this, and then, when you're feeling good and you want to party all the time,
I'm going to listen to it on the way home.
it's good stuff. Eddie Murphy, Party All the Time.
I will tell y'all, when Patrick fired up that song just now, I looked over across the desk at him and went, I got no shot.
No shot at this one. I thought maybe just in a comedy sense,
right?
You might have been like, "Oh yeah, that's the weird Eddie Murphy song."
I got it. I get
There's
where
a
your head
music
was
video
at.
for it too.
There is.
Oh yeah, it was a hit.
Man,
that was an actual hit.
Really?
Yes, and that's how famous Eddie Murphy was. If you want to know how famous Eddie Murphy was, that was it. And I get it was the '80s, so things were just different back then. But yes. No way Jay knows this is what Chief Engineer says.
Yeah, good call, Chief. Good call.
Texter also says, you can't get a bacon cheeseburger at In-N-Out. How can you call yourself a burger joint without bacon? No bacon, no thank you.
I agree.
I mean, you can have burgers without bacon. I've had bacon on plenty of burgers.
It's wrong, but sure.
I know that there is an argument that I have heard that a hamburger should be just the basic hamburger, and anything else added to it, including cheese, is a travesty.
Oh, come on.
Because then you can't taste the beef right.
Oh, come on.
Is what I've heard this argument before. And so if you think I'm the most curmudgeonly, stubborn person you've ever met, realize I'm not that crazy.
No, you just got bumped into second place next to whoever said that.
Freak Nasty knows it's Eddie Murphy. Scarlett knows it's Eddie Murphy. Average Joe knows it's Eddie Murphy.
Well, add me to that list. I now know it's Eddie Murphy.
West Texas Vanity says compares. What compares to it? New Mexico has Whataburger. Compares to Dan's in France is what he's saying about Whataburger.
What have you ever had Dan's in France?
No, I've had Franz. I've actually had Dan's before too.
Okay,
I think I have. Yeah, I don't have them all the time because then you get to get. But I have had them before. Dairy Queen to you is Coach Rodney and Rosebud Lot. DQ to you is nostalgic. Vintage Scott says I'd rather play Michigan. We match up better. I mean,
take it easy.
I think they're. I don't know. I think they're seeing, and assuming he has eligibility left, I'd hate to see Alfred Collins leave. Yeah, I'd like to see Alfred Collins. We know he's never probably going to reach the potential that we thought he could get to, but who knows? Who knows? Another year with Bo Davis coming back, and just to bolster that defensive line even more with who else you can bring in would be a big coup for Texas if they could keep him as well.
People can surprise you.
Bad as Patrick Swayze and Don Johnson.
Oh, no. Do they have a song as well?
Yeah, Patrick Swayze has a few songs, and he had a hit. Patrick Swayze had a hit, too.
Man, were they just hurting for music back then?
No, but fame was a different thing. Like, I have to explain to people now, fame is completely weird, because there's all these famous people now that if they walked into the studio right now, we would be completely clueless to who they were. But the further you go back, the more and more everybody knew everybody, because there was only so many places to do it. So you go back to the 50s, you're like, well, there's like 3 TV channels. They don't even run all the time.
Yeah.
And there's movies, and like whoever is famous.
Right.
But now it's like, well, now this person's a TikTok star. I don't have TikTok on my phone, so I don't know who they are.
You don't follow the Horn on TikTok?
I don't. You should. Everybody else should. I have not downloaded TikTok. I don't need to. I feel like when I do, it's just going to start a whole nother problem for me that I don't need.
Oh, you think you're going to be a TikTok star?
I wouldn't say star. I'd say laughing stock.
Both work.
Both work. Just shots of just up nose shots held at a camera at a weird angle.
It looked like you accidentally answered a FaceTime.
It's funny you should say it's been a day hooking up a VCR and all their old equipment at my parents' house. Going back to the VCR. I have a couple VCRs in storage because there's tapes, and then I try and pull them off, but then it's really hard to find a VCR that works well.
Yeah.
And then when you get the digital copy of it, there isn't like tracking issues and clicking and the sound works at all. So it's just difficult to find one. And I think like they stopped making them. They don't make VCRs anymore.
No way.
No, so you have to find one that's like newer and not beat up. So it's annoying.
Well,
It's annoying. And I'm sure there's services that do it. I'm not paying a bunch of money to do it. We'll do it myself. But yeah, Eddie and Rick, the song album was done on a bet. It worked. They won the bet and more.
Yeah, and they laughed all the way to the bank.
Let's talk some NFL, Jacob.
Okay.
Text line's still wrong. 512-447-3776, but we got a little bit of time. Let's talk some NFL. Mike McCarthy, we mentioned earlier, has surgery, had an appendicitis this morning.
Yeah, strange story, isn't it?
Jacob also did not know that appendixes can explode and kill you.
Why do we have that? It's useless. Why are we just...
It's not just pop culture. It's just things you should know in life, Jacob.
Why do
doesn't
we
know.
have this off button?
So he apparently this morning felt a little bad. It got worse throughout, and then everyone was like, yeah, you need to go get that checked out. You have a medical staff there.
Yeah.
So he went to the medical staff, and they were like, oh, yeah, you need to go to the hospital, like right now.
Yeah.
So he went, he got taken out. He's already out of surgery. They're assuming he will be back by Sunday to coach the team. Dan Quinn did the press conference. He said, I'm not even going to talk about if he's not there because he'll be back. He's a tough guy.
Dan Quinn said he'd be in meetings tonight online.
Yeah, so that's he plans to be back. Some other news around the NFL. Zach Wilson named the starter versus the Texans on Sunday. That Robert Saleh said that Zach Wilson came into him and said, Coach, I'm ready to go. I saw Tim Boyle play, and I can't be as bad as him. I just need to be a little better than Tim Boyle, and then I'm the right choice. And so Zach Wilson is starting versus the Texans. It is going to be an ugly game because the Jets have a really good defense, and especially a really good passing defense. And that's what the C.J. Stroud and the Texans like to do. Going against like that Garrett Wilson, Derek Stingley Jr. matchup is going to be really good. I don't know the wide receiver that we're going to see the Jets have to target on. Tank Dell is now out.
Probably Nico.
So you got Nico Collins, but Nico Collins is a big guy too, so it's difficult kind of guarding him. And Robert Woods will get some carries. We're hoping that that Mechie is going to be able to step up. He looks like he's getting healthier and healthier.
Yeah.
After his battle with leukemia, but he is going to be playing. And then we also heard from the Kelsey brothers on their New Heights podcast.
What'd they have to say?
That they were talking about they call it the brotherly shove. What do you call the play that is the Philadelphia? I call it the tush push.
I call it 1st and 9 because if you get them to 4th and 1, it's over.
This is what they had to say about the tush push, which is a guy on the Eagles, the center. One of the main reasons this play works is because of Jason Kelsey.
Yeah.
Here's what they had to say.
Commissioner Roger Goodell wants to permanently ban the brotherly shove. That's right. It's all coming to an end. Once the commission starts talking about it and saying he wants to get it done, it's going to get done. Mr. Goodell just made all our lives a little easier in the NFL outside of the Eagles organization. Jason, do you fully expect it to be banned next season at this point? Are you just sick of the debate?
Listen, ban it. I really, at this point, I don't care. I'm over the discussion about it.
To be fair, it would just be banning like the push in the back. Everybody would still be able to run the QB sneak, I think.
Well, that's where I'm kind of like, whatever. We were really good at running quarterback sneak before we did the push. I don't think that it's a necessary part for it. It certainly helps. There's no question about it. I don't have the energy to care about whether it gets banned or not. We're going to run it right now because we're good at it and it's effective. And whatever they do next season, we'll figure out a way to do something at a high level and make it effective. I don't know. I mean, if it's for a health reason, I don't think a lot of guys get injured on it. So I don't think that's a good reason. If it's for an unfair advantage, we've already seen other teams do it at not as good of a success level. So I don't know that it's that big of a competitive advantage. If they do ban the brotherly shove, there will be a good reason behind it that the commissioner wants to get done. Whether people agree with it or not, it is what it is. And we move forward. We were 36 for 38 running quarterback sneaks before the push. Shout out to Baldy. Baldy breakdowns. The tush push gets a lot of the hype ever since Jeff Statlin's been here. We've been pretty darn efficient on quarterback sneaks, just around the 92% mark, if I don't say so myself.
That's the reality. You have a quarterback that can do this. Now you're helping him out, but I don't know how much more. Like that's usually gets you 2 or 3 yards.
Yeah.
But they could get the 1 yard anyway.
Right.
And if you really watch that play every time you watch it, the reality why some teams are not as good at it as them is they get so low when they hit it and they can go kind of underneath and submarine these guys.
Right.
And get underneath them and get the ball and Jalen Hurts is able to get underneath it and they always get the yardage versus trying to go over the top where you're allowing other men like linebackers and everybody to fight in there when you go over the top. If you go underneath, you only have to fight the linemen, because the linebackers can't get in under there.
Well, they also create like a nice little base, and Jalen just finds a pocket
Exactly.
just
And so
squeezes
there's a
in.
lot they can get into. I don't know. I know that it's been a problem and people hate it because it's the Eagles and they do it. And I'm number one Eagles hater. I don't like the team.
I don't mind
Don't
it.
like the city. Don't like the. I don't think it's that much of a competitive advantage.
I don't
And
either.
unless you're saying everybody's getting hurt doing it, I don't see a reason to ban it just because other people. But other people try it and they do it as well. I get Carolina wants to get rid of it because they don't have a quarterback that can do it.
Right.
And I get, if you have a quarterback that, you don't want to get hurt, I wouldn't do it either.
So
I would be
don't run
more
that
creative.
play.
Exactly. I get that it's upsetting. It's upsetting that he's doing it. I think it's beating up on Jalen Hurts as well. If you talk long-term health and how Jalen Hurts is getting beat up and he's more beat up this season than he's ever been, I probably wouldn't run it as much as they do right now. If I was the Eagles, I might go, hey, let's not shove Jalen Hurts and his beat up body into the middle of a pile over and over and over again, like 4 or 5 times a game.
You're telling me any kind of shoulder irritation Jalen might have might not be credited to that brotherly shove where he's getting.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It could.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying, I get it. And if I get that. I just don't get why people want to get rid of it. I get that it's annoying that a team can always pick up a first down. But quarterback sneaks in the NFL, if you have a good O-line, they're not that hard to do because the rules are set up in a way to help the offense.
And you heard him just a second ago. Before the brotherly shove, 36 of 38 on QB sneaks.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's I'll be interested to hear what the commissioner's reason is.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. If Jason Kelsey retires, that rate's going to go down.
Oh, big time.
You have a Hall of Fame center in front of you.
Yeah.
And he can just get down low and play. Like, the reality is, get yourself a good enough O-line and you can do that kind of same thing. I don't know why they're going to do it. I think it's funny he throws in there, I don't see the injury and I don't see this, but he'll make the right decision if he does.
Yeah.
I know that they banned it in college. It's also then becomes a much more subjective thing, which they try and stay away from subjective calls where, well, did he just put his hands on the back or did he push? And you have to have the writing of the rule in such a way where it takes away subjective. So if you even touch the back of the quarterback.
So how does that work then for those plays where there's a scrum and then they push the pile
That's what I'm saying.
downfield?
So I think it becomes something where it becomes more problems for the referees because it becomes a judgment call. And then is it your hands or if a guy behind him runs into the pile as well and is just walking into the back of him?
Right.
Is that now a push too? It's,
Can
if
you push the back or is just the butt
Yeah,
off limits?
This is the butt.
Yeah, okay.
They said no more butts. It's weird, dude. We got to take one more break. We'll come back, wrap it up, and get to the text line. Any more texts you guys send in, we'll try and get to those before we get out of here. And right here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, M1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. wrapping things up here on the Horn. Last call. Get your drinks in. You don't got to go home, but you can't stay here. All those things.
That's
that I
such
hear,
a great outro.
Hear too many things that I've heard too much in my life. Been told too many times.
Turn the lights back off.
Thanks everybody for tuning in today. We did miss it at the Astros. We may talk more about some other stories with the Astros. We did not hear though Victor Caratini, I believe is how you pronounce that name.
Yes, I believe so.
The catcher who was playing with the Padres. They did sign him to a 2-year deal last night, which unfortunately for some and some others may be unfan of it, does probably mean the end of the Maldonado Machete era in Houston. He has had a ton of success there with the pitching staffs, with the World Series and everything else that he's been a part of. So it'll be sad to see him go if you're an Astros fan. If you're not an Astros fan, then maybe this is, I don't know.
It's a sad, sad day. Maldi was huge. We talk about culture for the Longhorns. Maldi's huge for the culture of that Astros team.
Texter says, I feel like Dak and Dallas would be even better at running the tush push, but they never do it. McCarthy is too old school. I do not feel they would be better.
I don't think so either.
I don't feel they would be better, but I don't get that. And Right Guy from New Mexico says, what's with the supposed rumors of tampering when it comes to Clemson, DB, Andrew Makuba transferring to Texas? That just clickbait. I know they're looking at him. He went to LBJ, I believe.
Yes.
And so they're looking at it. I can put it two ways. One, there is tons of tampering in all of this. It is done. There is what the tampering normally would be was his coach from LBJ would say, well, I know that. And also, I believe Texas, didn't they hire a guy from LBJ?
So they hired LBJ's head coach last year to be the director of high school communications for the Longhorns.
So I'm sure there's something in that where they can say, well, he talked to his high school coach, and his high school coach is now at Texas, and so there's tampering because they're doing that. Also, I don't know how much of this would have been Dabo Swinney, but Dabo Swinney hates the transfer portal. He hates NIL. He hates anything of change. He wants things to go back the way it was. Take whatever you want of that, but most people want everything to go back the way it was. Don't want. All right, won't finish up. But I get it. There needs to be evolution. There needs to be change. Need things to be aligned. Dabo Swinney and his views are not always in line with mine when this is the way it's done. I think he can continue to win and be successful with those things happening. But I know Clemson people are not going to be thrilled that if you don't want to play NIL, people are going to walk away from your team at points.
Yeah.
And especially when you're not competing for national championships anymore.
Yeah. And speaking of people who can't get along, everybody will be happy to know Dre Greenlaw and Dom DeSandro from the Eagles and the 49ers have made up. They have issued formal apologies. Everybody's friends again. I know
everybody's friends again, except for don't come over on the sideline if you're not supposed to be on the sideline.
The NFL issued a memo, said make sure your staff knows their role on game day.
Appreciate all you guys joining us on the text line. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about more sports, and recap that Texas Marquette game for you as well. Until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow, 4 o'clock. More of the Sports Complex.